Hey, podcast listening people, welcome to, of course, what's going to be another exciting, interesting, and engaging episode of the B2B Mentors podcast. And we're here for free, bringing you insights, strategies from real life practitioners, marketers, business development experts, leaders, and, what I'd call maybe business celebrities. And as always, today I have a fantastic guest for you. I guarantee you're going to get great value out of this episode. And so if not only for you, make sure that you share this with your network because I'm sure there's someone else who will also want to watch this and learn. And we're going to provide you with actionable strategies that you can actually take away, execute into your business, into your department, and kind of wherever you're at. There's always, that one golden nugget that, you are able to take away. So make sure that you listen all the way through to the end, because I have my friend, good rhyme there, Amy Frampton, with me today, who's spent her career in marketing with 20 years of experience at companies like Microsoft, HPE, Smartsheet, who we connected on through another mutual friend at Smartsheet. We love Smartsheet.
Yes.
Smartsheet's the best. When in doubt, throw some Smartsheet out on it. And also BambooHR. And now recently, Nava, right? Did I say Nava?
Nava,
Yep.
I
said it right
Nava
that time.
Yep.
Nava benefits. Her passion is in storytelling from the perspective of the customer and creating messaging that connects with audiences in a unique way, which, as marketers, is even experienced marketers, is always a challenge. It's always shifting. It's always pivoting. Maybe you're changing into different brands and companies and buyer personas. And so being able to build that customer community, do the storytelling and your messaging the right way. We're going to dive into that. But first off, Amy, welcome. Grateful to have you here.
Thanks
with the
for having me.
red.
This will be fun. I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to being here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. Give everyone just a bit of context. What is it, let's go back. Let's go back to like teenage Amy. What were you like? What were you, interested in at the time? And then what kind of set you off into this particular career path?
Yeah, well, gosh, teenage Amy wore a lot of blue eyeshadow and had very, very big 90s hair. So I don't know that we want to go back too far.
Bring it back.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
I've got pictures to prove it wasn't good. Although I just saw that blue eyeshadow is back on trend in 2024. So I just want to warn everyone out there. Don't do it. It's not, you're going to regret it.
Everything cycles. We know this is marketers, right? Everything comes full circle eventually.
It's so true. Now we're wearing the mom jeans again. We did that once too. But I loved school. I was super nerdy and I loved politics at the time. And I actually went to school I was a little activist. And so I went to school to be a history and political science teacher, and went to school to be an educator, and then quickly fell in love with political science as a major. And I went into that. I actually worked on the Hill for the U.S. House and Senate for about 6 years before I went into marketing. And I think that the connection there is I loved thinking about how to connect with communities and make a difference. And so when I left, kind of working as a congressional staffer, I went to work at a communications firm and that did marketing and communications. And so I did that for 5 years and was recruited to Microsoft from there. That's really where I joined tech marketing. But I've always loved thinking through, how do you connect with people? How do you communicate with them? What's going to resonate? How do you listen well? And how do you think about what they need and what they're saying? And so I think even though it's kind of a weird line, from education to politics to marketing or non-traditional, it worked for me because of that thread of connecting with folks and thinking about things in that way.
I think it makes perfect sense. So for all of you listening, you aspire to be, CMO like Amy, then get into politics. There's your answer. Become a politician.
There's your answer. Oh my gosh, politics has changed so much even in the last 20 years. But I have gotten asked by people who are graduating from business school and People I mentor, like, how do I become a CMO? And my advice is always, don't think about that right now. Maybe don't think about it ever. Think about where you can have an impact, where you can learn, where you can connect. Take those experiences and then do it in a different area. And all of that learning and impact accrues. And then you can end up in a role where you're overseeing all of those different kinds of programs and connections and messaging, because you've done it all, and you've seen it all. So I think it doesn't have to be a straight line. That's for sure.
And I think when we talked, one of the things that definitely stood out and we're like, hey, what do we kind of want to dive into on this is that community aspect. And
Yep.
I do believe that, especially 2024 going into future years, one of the biggest mistakes we've made as marketers is just not focusing on community, focusing on transactional. And to be fair, a lot of that's driven from the board and from executive leadership is sales, sales, sales right now, today. If it doesn't happen, we're going to move on to the next CMO who's willing to do it.
Right.
Hence why you got to be good at politics also.
Yeah,
so maybe we
that's
have some
true.
political strategies to navigate, around that. But what is it that made you really think about that as well? And community being, so critical as a CMO and thinking in that way, just kind of the first thing that came to your mind at that point.
Yeah, a couple things. I think first of all, the average, even in B2B sales, which is my focus, everyone who's getting your messaging is also a consumer, right? And they have the context of a consumer. They're used to the Apple site. They're used to all of the things that target consumers. All of the channels that we're using, or a lot of the channels we're using, whether it's email or paid or organic, webinars, consumers doing all that too. And so they're just overwhelmed, and there's a high expectation on connection and the messaging hitting, the messaging being personalized. You can't just, it's not a traditional, well, I sell to business, so it's kind of dry, and everything has to be polished. Everything has to have a high bar because they're also consumers. And so there also is an expectation from folks to have a two-way conversation. They're so overwhelmed with, I can speak for myself. I get so many emails, B2B, B2C, ads, retargeting, like all the things, that you start to just put your hands up and say, I'm not listening to any of it. And so then how do you connect? Well, you connect hopefully through your communities. And whether it's a religious community or it's something you all like to do, it's all pickleball community, or it's marketers meeting together and talking, or, this is an example of community, right? Our conversation and sharing that with others. And so if people put their hands up to everything that they're getting, community really is your next spot to go. And that's being where they are and engaging in conversations that matter to them. And that can be virtual, that can be in person, that can be, digital groups. It can be in all those places. But if your email is not even getting opened, and we all know best practice opening is like 22% in B2B, if you're lucky, and then you got to be in the room where it happens, and you got to be in the room talking about things they care about and providing value. And that's what you can do through community that you can't necessarily always do. Like, you can provide great content through an email or an ad, but if they won't look at it or they won't open it, there's no way to do that. And so community ends up being a trusted resource for people in a way that a lot of traditional marketing tactics just aren't. You obviously have to take that seriously. If you act in an untrusted way, you lose the community trust and you're out. But as long as you do it in a way that's adding value, I think it really works.
And it has to be authentic too.
Yep.
There's, like companies with large budgets, pay to play to get into communities. And it's just like sell, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch. Don't
Totally.
think long-term, build genuine, relationships, provide way more value than you ever ask for in return. But, for you, is your suggestion for marketers is really trying to find a way to build community via like creating the community platform, or first thing first, identifying where your particular personas are spending time in community and tapping into those, little bit of both? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say both A and B, because it's, if it would be silly to not engage in communities that are already out there. And as you say, to do it in an authentic way that adds value to that community. So you're seen as part of the community versus kind of an interloper or salesperson that's just there lurking for someone to say, hey, who knows a good software for this? Then you go, it's my time. It's my time. That doesn't work. But if you really build those relationships, that can really work. And then sometimes you can build your own. And I think a lot of us are trying to do that now. I'm a member of a CMO community, for instance, and how do they get? It's run primarily by 6 Sense, but how do they have 150 CMOs every Friday?
Which
They
one?
get.
Which one is this?
This is the
6
CMO
Senses.
Network roundtables. Mm-hmm.
Wonder if I've heard of that.
And they don't record them. And we have really honest conversations and really good content. People want to go. And are there people sponsoring or participating that have things they want you to buy? Absolutely. Do you ever hear about it in that forum? No, you don't. You're sharing, here's what I've learned. Here's what I've seen. Here's a challenge I have. And by having those authentic conversations, you build relationships. And that does eventually lead, in most communities, to the ability to talk about what you're doing. But if you go in over the top, not only will you be kicked out of most communities, but but nobody will believe what you're saying the rest of the time. And so, finding those rooms where it happens is important. And then offering value in building, like this group did, that I'm in, and starting with a smaller group, building from there, it works. People want to connect. And so many of us are now remote, working from home, or, overwhelmed by everything else. And having those spaces where you can really talk to peers is important.
So what did they, if you reverse engineered what they do to, and I'm sure there's people listening who are like, I'd love hundreds of CMOs to be in my community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like, what was it they did differently to hook you? Were you already a 6 Sense customer? So the, relationship was there. I know the 6 Sense, I've had some of them on my podcast.
Great. Yep.
And so is it, what did they do to really hook you in and also make it sticky in your particular case?
Really good content. And the acknowledgement at the start of everyone that this is not being recorded and this is not a sales call. Like it's so authentic, and you get value every single week. If I miss a week, it breaks. Like I was at a wedding last Friday, so I didn't get to go because I was doing things at that time, and I was really sad. And then I had other colleagues say to me, oh, you missed this, you missed that. Like, this is what we talked about. And so it's about content and then making sure you get a nucleus of the right people in the room to start. Because you don't get 150 or so offhand, but if you get 10 to 15 really great folks, then other people want to join the room.
Yeah, I think most marketers often they start it. Okay, this is in my marketing plan to develop a community, and there's so many unique ways you can do it, no matter the industry. If you're in oil and gas or technology or SaaS or you name it, a lot of ways to go about it. But like the patience of going into building it. The other thing, just curiosity is. When you are approaching that community building side for any kind of brand, how do you do that market research or, find out, okay, these are our clients. How do I clone these clients and their personas? What are you doing to, figure out what's really interesting to them?
Well, so talking to your customers and your target audience and asking them, it's, people
What a novel idea.
I know, you talk to them and you ask them questions and you learn things. It's crazy. Yeah. But it works. And everybody wants to share those perspectives and has, depending on the audience, varying levels of ability to do that in their workplace. I work with HR and they are so underwater all the time. There's more to do. And, and so for them to be asked And then, you bring people in that can speak to those things and say, invite your friends, invite your colleagues, and people will do that if you're showing value. So I honestly think it doesn't have to be over engineered. You don't have to run a huge market research thing. I think you ask. And it's important, for everything you do in marketing to know your customer. And I think if you're not doing that, that's going to hurt you in your community. It's going to hurt you everywhere else too. But, if you're talking to your customers actively, what's on their minds, and you can say, hey, would this be helpful? Is this interesting? And, have them hear from each other. That's the other thing. Communities don't want to hear from the same people all the time. A lot of a community isn't about, I speak to this topic once a week to my community, right? Like snooze fest. It's, hey, we've got someone new and they're coming in and they've got an interesting perspective that might help you and help the group in their careers and their day-to-day and their work balance, all of that. And let's have them come in and share. And then let's get questions, so you step out of the way as much as possible and allow those connections to happen. That's super valuable.
Allow it to build organically. Best advice I've ever gotten from a mentor of mine: selling is not telling.
That's so right. That's so right.
It seems so obvious. Okay, I want to do this, Amy. This sounds, great, but where do I start? Ask the questions. Ask the customer. Ask your account team. Ask your sales team. They hold the secrets. It's just asking. And it seems obvious, but again, I've talked hundreds and hundreds of marketers over the years, and it doesn't come across for some reason.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like we forget. It's a mentor of mine once said, you want your marketing to be outside in, not inside out. And I think it's very similar to what your mentor said in a different way. If you are sitting with the marketing team in a conference room, virtual or not, and thinking great thoughts, great marketing thoughts, right? You're not going to get there. But if you're listening and you're talking to your customers and your prospects and you're talking to the sales team and the SDRs that are on the call with folks every single day, I own the SDRs and have historically at my last few companies, they know, and then you listen and then you can figure it out. And that makes a huge difference. I think our mentors were aligned.
Definitely. What else in last year? Q3, Q4, rough, pretty much across the board for companies. First thing to go and get slashed is which department?
Marketing.
Marketing department.
Yep.
And with that, and just, you've been through a number of seasons like that in your career. And so with your wisdom on that front, what are you seeing out there other marketers need to be looking out for? Obviously community is huge, but again, you're also just kind of a few months into this newer role.
Yeah.
And so what are this is the execution that's got to happen given the time and place we're at economically, politically, and just, in the business landscape. What are you looking out for and other marketers need to be as well?
Yeah. And this may not be revelatory to anyone, but it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. I feel like in earlier marketing days, we talked a lot about the leads that marketing drove. And obviously, if you're not driving leads, that's when the board gets upset. And that's when all these challenges happen. I don't think that's true anymore. And you're going to say, well, of course it's true. Boards want you to drive leads. Boards want you to close deals. And so if you are closed off from your sales portion of the pipeline and you're not connected all the way through and, kind of pair two in a box all the way through the pipeline, bring your sales team up front and get the feedback on what people want to hear for air cover. And then you're partnering with them all the way through to closed won and implementation and advocacy all the way on the other end of the pipeline, you will lose because no one wants to hear right now, and probably ever, but it feels like more pressure now. I got 4,000 MQLs, and someone's going to say, I don't give a rat's ass how many MQLs you got. What did you close? And I don't think that was historically is true. But I think now, if you're not working with your sales leader and that team all the way through the pipe, you're not doing your job. And I just spoke at the business school to a sales class, And I was trying to explain to them how marketing can help. You know, it was kind of like, we're not the enemy, we're here for you. And when you go into your jobs, think about these things. And I was sharing with them, like, we're your partners, or should be, all the way through. And you could tell they were like, our professors have never told us that. I'm like, I understand. But if we just hand over something and say, now you guys go close them, I've done my part, you're not doing your job, especially not in the last few years. And so I've really been having fun thinking through, where can marketing help all the way through advocacy? You know, don't stop. Don't stop top of the funnel. Don't stop mid funnel. Go all the way through with your teams. I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah, people say sales marketing alignment, but really it's sales marketing partnership.
Yep.
It's
You are a
really
GTM team,
all
and you cannot bow out early and think, oh, they're going to love that I've done this. It is not how it works anymore.
And you've probably seen this too. A lot of younger market, not even younger, but whatever kind of marketing title you have, and you think, oh, sales side, that's not my role. And as soon as you think that or say that, you've already lost,
You've
because
lost.
it
Yep.
is. And especially in the data-driven world we're moving into, and how marketers can't be as high level as they used to be anymore. They got to be very, very to the point, knowing your numbers, absolutely everything to a T. Is you got to be just as good at. You should be able to close deals as good as any salesperson.
Yep.
As a marketing coordinator, marketing assistant, social media, marketing role,
Absolutely.
you name it, communications director.
And then we expect, in the same way, the sales team to understand the messaging, to understand the campaigns. But if you don't share them with them, if you just hand off the leads, how are they supposed to know that? And so I just think that relationship has got to get much tighter. And I'm seeing that in a number of businesses where it's happening. But if you think of yourselves as separate, it's really, really not. And some teams are doing the CRO owns marketing, or the CMO owns sales. I like where I report in. And so I don't know that I'm suggesting that, but I think that ability to work really closely together through the funnel is just super critical.
And have you gone into teams where essentially leadership or board, they don't want that? They're like, these are two separate things. Stop asking all these questions about sales. Like, have you been in that scenario, and or do you, colleagues in that scenario, any advice for them? Because I know a lot of marketers are probably facing that battle as well.
Totally. And in this class, one of the sales students said to me, well, what do you do when they won't listen to you in sales? I've been really lucky in that I've partnered with some really great sales leaders that want that partnership, but it's always like, how close can you get? But it's always been in a realm of really good stuff. I mean, I just feel lucky that the CROs I've worked with have been excellent, and I have an excellent one now. But I think, just like as humans, we all want to hear the why, and they talk about generational changes, and they say people earlier in career want to hear the why more, right? Than maybe my generation, who would just be like, that's what you need me to do? Okay, I'm going to go do it. Everyone wants the why. And I think the sales team need to hear the why. And so I jump on sales team calls. I go to their offsites. I take them to lunch. All the things.
Oh, you're schmoozing them. I see how it goes. Yeah.
It's just a number of at-bats, so that you can say, where we can help you is your conversion rate. And any salesperson that hears you can work with their conversion rate, again, it's just being with them and having that trust. So I go to all those events, not to schmooze, although, there's a little schmoozing, but to build that relationship. So then when I say, I can help you with that, they say, oh, I didn't know that, or I hadn't thought of that, And so if you're not doing that already at a company, gain the trust and prove it out, and I can guarantee you it will happen. Where people have trouble is where they don't have those conversations.
What's one area you've held as a long-standing belief in B2B marketing, especially for probably a number of years, that in recent months you've even changed your mind on?
Gosh, that's a hard one. And I don't want to sound like, oh, I never changed my mind, because I change my mind all the time. I think I was fairly skeptical of organic until recently. And now that Google's algorithm, understanding there's other search engines out there. I was at Microsoft for 10 years, so Bing certainly as well. But now that they are rewarding good content over how exactly you word something or a purchase in organic, I have a lot more faith in organic than I used to. I think that's definitely one. Just because they've changed how they're doing it, and it feels a lot more authentic and truthful about what's out there.
Which
So I'm gonna say
ironically,
organic.
the
Yeah.
emergence of AI, and now we're going to write
Yep.
our web pages through AI.
Yep.
Nope. You need to
Yep.
have
And Google won't let you do
still,
that, right? And Google's like, oh, hell no. And so I think that change has been really good. There's a lot of good that AI does as well, and personalization, and gosh, so many things. But I think the ability to write a web page in 30 seconds has changed the reaction of those algorithms in a really positive way. So I'm
yeah.
going to say organic. That's going to be the
Yeah,
thing.
I think those of us that have been doing that naturally because we care more about the limited numbers who are getting value and quality out
Yep.
of the content and information. We've seen it ourselves, years and years of refusing to just do what everyone else is doing just because we can temporarily rank for something and actually, putting true value. Well, the numbers are going up as a result of that change. So if, people haven't caught on to that, I think that was a really good point that you
Yeah.
brought up there. Anything else just top of mind, 60 seconds you want to share, just impart upon everybody before we wrap up here?
Sure. What's worked really well for me in my career is relationships. And so you heard that about community, you're hearing that about organic, you're hearing that across the board, right? From me. And especially in a world where so many of us are hybrid and remote, and people don't read emails all the time. And, pick up the freaking phone, make a video, travel to the place they're having the offsite, make the effort. Because as a marketer, if you make the effort, not only will your marketing be better, but it will land with every single audience, internal and external, that you have. And that has been something that has really worked for me, and that I continue to think, if we hide behind our screens, we're never going to connect in the ways to do this right. So make the
I think
effort. That's my tip.
I think that was fantastic. And then, just before we wrap up, Nava, anything you want to share about that? Just who your typical
Yeah,
clients are, give a high level on the company. And then also if people want to find you, follow you,
yeah,
get into contact with you, maybe get mentorship from you, where can they go and
absolutely.
do that?
Yeah, so I joined Nava just over a month ago, so I'm really new. But here's, when someone calls you and says, we've got a company and they're trying to fix healthcare, would you like to join them? You're going to take that call. And our mission is to fix healthcare. And we're starting by doing that with 160 million people across the United States that get their benefits through their employer. And so we are a tech-enabled benefits brokerage. We do it really differently, make it simpler, cleaner, and much more human, not only for the HR folks that are maybe making the purchase, but for their end employee. And it's just really exciting to be a part of. And so, check us out for sure. We work with SMBs primarily, 25 employees to 1,500. But also, if you just want to talk, if you want to riff and that sort of make the effort, if you need a mentor, you need someone to review your resume, like I love nothing more than connecting with folks either long in the industry or just getting in. You want an internship? I'm hiring interns right now. Reach out to me on LinkedIn and I will get back to you as quick as possible. I'd love to connect.
NavaBenefits.com. If anyone's interested, want to check that out, see a way to partner. I'm sure just, between is there that's also probably a good question too. Vendor solutions, resources, like is there anything on that front you guys are looking for, listeners if they're in a category that could support you guys on that
Sure, I'm
level?
always interested in the newest and latest. I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what's out there, but there's always new things coming in the market that can be really helpful. Reviewing a lot of AI solutions right now, as is every marketer I know. So feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help your click-through rate and open that mail.
That's awesome. Well, and then LinkedIn, best way to follow you, get in
Yep.
contact with you.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll put
Easy to
that link
find.
in the description there. Amy, thank you so much. This has been
Thanks for
fantastic. Lots
having
of
me.
wisdom. You're welcome on any time. If we ever want to continue to nerd out different topics and all that good stuff. And the rest of you, again, make sure you go follow her. Make sure you're subscribed. Podcast is on all your favorite podcast networks. There's no reason you shouldn't go listen to these insights. You're not getting them anywhere else. The level of guests that we're bringing on here. Much love to you, my friends. Make it great, and we will see you on the other side.